Your target market is what you fall back on every time you want to add a product or a pattern or something new. Welcome to Life Unleashed,
the podcast all about creating the best life for you and your furry best friend.
If you're a dog mom on the go, juggling life, work, and the endless joys of being a dog parent, then you're in the right place. I'm Dani.
And I'm Nick.
And together with the incredible dog mom community from Tails Up Pup, we're here to share advice, stories, and the obsession we have over the love for our dogs.
Get ready to laugh, learn, and lean on each other because life with your dog just got even more awesome.
If you are a business owner, aspiring, or in the thick of it, this one is for you. We used to host webinars and do courses and stuff
back in the day,
but we are bringing this valuable information for free to you for listening to the Life Unleashed podcast. So I hope that you can find some value in this. This is the number one thing that we talk about when we're talking with people who set up a meeting with us about starting a small business or, struggling with a small business or just looking for advice. And it is all about your target market, which is one of the most important things that you need to figure out as a business owner.
And I think one of the reasons that we talk about this so much is because this is probably one of the most common things that people get wrong when thinking about starting a business. I think we should go a little story time. This weekend, we were out at a little boutique in our town around here. I'm not going to say who or anything like that, but we're in the boutique. We're talking to one of the owners, and Danielle's mom was with us, and she goes so who's your customer? Who's your target market? And they go, oh, pretty much everyone. Everyone's our target market.
And
everyone's our customer.
Surprisingly, that is the number one answer that Nick and I hear when we are talking to other business owners. And that is where people go so wrong because it sounds great. You want everyone to buy your things so that, you can cast your net and anyone who is interested would come and give you their money. But if you think everyone is your target market, you'll actually end up having no one.
And I think it's a kind of a misconception because people think about it as everyone with money could buy my product. And you're right about that. But if everyone is who you're going after, you're not going to speak to anyone specific at all.
The biggest concept that you have to understand is that while you are figuring out your target market, you're not excluding anyone from coming and being a part of your community or purchasing your product. You are just niching down on what you are creating and who you are putting it out for. But if someone outside of that target market that you've created enjoys it, they're allowed to be there, and that's okay. And that's a good thing. That is, getting more people than just your initial target market. And over time, you will grow. Nick loves to say Amazon didn't start selling everything to everyone. They started with books and they grew from there. And you can also do that, but you got to start somewhere with something specific.
Right. And I think a good example is maybe, we can use Tails Up Pup as an example just because that's what we know the most. But when you're starting out, the more specific, the better, I think is going to be helpful for you.
So you need age range, gender, interests, what do these people like to do? And if you are creating something that you enjoy, think about yourself. And sometimes I feel like a lot of people are creating a business or a product because of themselves. So you can use yourself as your first little guinea pig. But if it's not for you, then you would have to think of someone else.
Right. When you're thinking about your target market, you want to think about almost make it a specific person. Think about a friend or someone that you're talking to and try to describe in your own mind everything you can about that person. What are they like? All the descriptive features that you can come up with. And the more specific you get about that, the more specific you can be with your target market.
And for example, our newer brand, Simply Sweet Pea, we had to create who our target market was for that too. And there are some things that you find out along the way that are so random, but then you end up putting that in. So what we recommend is getting a document and having your different categories and then filling them in for this dream person that would buy from you. And for Simply Sweet Pea, we had done that. And over, just in the first month, we realized, hey, almost every person who's buying is also a Disney fan. They like going to Disney World or they have a passion for Disney. So we added that in, but that wasn't something originally that we knew or even thought about. but we learned that.
Right, yeah, your target market and your target person can evolve along the way. But really why you want to think of it as like a specific person is like you're sending out your marketing messages, you're putting out your social media content, and you want to think about who is the person that you're speaking to on the other end of that piece of content and what you're putting out there. And if you really have that person in your mind, you're going to be able to talk directly to them, and they're going to feel like they're having basically a one-way conversation through the screen with you.
Yeah, because really your marketing efforts are telling a story. And so you need to tell a story to a specific person. If Nick is telling me a story about something I don't care about, I'm going to stop listening and I'm going to move on. And then, you know, that's not what you want in your marketing efforts. So you need to figure out this specific person and how you're going to talk to them, what story you're going to tell, and how you're going to capture them in to being a part of your community or buying your product.
And I think like one of like the easiest examples to wrap your head around is a lot of people when they talk about Tails Up Up, they're like, oh, you know, you can do so much stuff for dog dads and all the stuff for men. And while we do a few things for that, and we've expanded that way, we pretty much say like we are only speaking to women.
And men do come and buy from us, and that's okay, but that's not who we're creating our marketing for. That's not like who our target market is. And they can still come, they can still buy other things, but they're not in our primary target market.
Right, yeah, they're not excluded, and I think there are probably guys that follow us that, you know, maybe they sometimes feel like we're not speaking specifically to them, but they still resonate with some of the stuff that we're putting out there. But still, to this day, everything that we're putting out there is, you know, targeting towards women and their interests and things like that. And I mean, in the beginning too, we start out like we're kind of going for the, you know, dog mom that is from like 18 to 35 that is, you know, doesn't have any kids, their dog is their kid, and that was the person that we're looking towards. But that has expanded over time for us. And that's, I think the longer you're in business, you do see some of that expansion, but sometimes you have to know when to draw the line. Another example for Tails Up Up is, well, why don't you do cat stuff? While people can put the bandanas on cats if they want to, we've definitely had that. We've had bandanas we put on goats, all different types of animals.
Guinea pigs.
But ultimately, we have said, you know what? We are focusing on dogs. And like, if you're not a dog, you can still buy our stuff, but we're talking to dog owners. If we started trying to have our messaging being like, oh yeah, well, if you have a lizard, you can put it on there. If you have, you know, a bunny, you can put it on there. If you have a goat, cow, whatever, our bandanas work for all animals. If we did that, it wouldn't resonate with anybody, because it's like, well, I actually would rather, put yourself in that position. If you're wanting to buy a bandana for your dog, do you want the company that says our bandanas work for all animals? Or would you want to buy from a company that says we make the best bandanas for dogs out there?
Also, like the way that we started is having a dog bandana shop. And so it would be easy to say, anyone is our target. Literally anyone is our target market, because everyone has a dog or knows someone with a dog. There's going to be very few people on earth that do not know someone with a dog or have a dog. And so, whoa, I lost my breath there for a second.
Pregnancy.
So it would be easy to say anyone, because if you know a dog, you're going to buy this bandana for them. And so we were like, hey, that's not realistic. But anyone who has a dog could be our target market, because if you have a dog, well, of course you want to dress them up. Of course you would need a bandana. But we quickly realized that, and this is really why we're passionate about target markets, because we were also culprits. We were like, hey, anyone with a dog would buy our product. And then we had the harsh reality that is not necessarily true, because we do have somewhat of a luxury product, and not everyone finds value in a dog bandana, a handmade bandana. People are like, I could go to Amazon and get one. And so we had to figure out who truly cares about handmade products, dressing up their dog,
personalized options,
these special moments, capturing the photos. And that's really how we started narrowing down who our true target market was, because we realized we can't just target anyone with a dog. And also your age range would be huge. And so yes, Nick said like 18 to 35 is who we target, and we have plenty of people older than that who buy from us, and we love that, and they are welcome here. That's just not necessarily who we're messaging for, because someone like my mom is going to find different content entertaining than someone like us.
Well, and we kind of speak to people that we can, the age range that we can relate to the best. Where I'm 30, Dani is 29, and so that kind of age range we feel like we can I guess, communicate the best with.
Yeah, and that's why it's definitely easier if you are your target market, because if you're not, it would be much harder to create the right messaging if you don't truly know them or understand them. So for us, it's a lot easier because we are who we target to. And also that's why our community is strong, I believe, because there are people who relate to us because we're truly preaching something that we believe in and who
and
we
that we
are.
live. Yeah. Well, and I think I want to go back a little bit when you were talking about like Amazon and like so many people in the beginning, and even now we'll talk about like, well, how do you expect to compete with Amazon or Chewy or PetSmart and these big companies? And ultimately what we've kind of come to believe is like we're really not competing with them actually, because the person that's going to go buy a $3 bandana from Amazon or a really cheap bandana from a lot of these other companies, that really isn't the person that we're actually speaking to. We're speaking to the person that wants, a handmade item that has their dog's name on it, that is crafted, really a luxury item for them. That person is very, very different from the person that is like, I want the cheapest bandana, for my dog.
And if you are someone who is just always buying the cheapest thing, you probably truly cannot comprehend why someone would buy something that is more expensive. But there are people out there who truly care about shopping small, supporting someone personally. Like when you buy from a place like Amazon, you never see anyone affected by that, where we're creating our content showing how truly every sale affects us, and we are making the products, and you can see your bandana being made before it's shipped to you, and there's something really special about that, and there are people who care about that, and so that is really who we're speaking to. Okay, if you're not watching this and you're listening, I grabbed my phone so I could pull up our documents, but we have quite a few documents titled Target Market because over time we have wanted to sit down. We've sat down with all of our employees as a team and really brainstormed. But the original Target Market document we made in, I don't even know what year this is. I don't know what it says, but we had all these things like in our head we learned along the way, but we didn't truly sit down and talk about it for a long time, which I think was a big turning point for us of being a business owner. And especially if you're like a one-man band or like have one other person, it's easy to just be thinking about these things and not sit down and truly care about it. So if that is you, I would suggest sitting down and writing it out so that you truly understand, because we didn't do that for a while, and this really helped us change our business for the better. And so if you already have been in business, you already have a lot of analytics to help you. And so on my document, I have all of our Instagram analytics screenshot on here because it tells you the age range of the people who are looking at your stuff, where they live, and a lot of other things. So if you already have been in business, you have a lot of things to your advantage. You can also use like something like Shopify or Squarespace, whatever you sell on. They probably also have some analytics that would be really useful for you. And so just think about those things. If you're starting from scratch, you get to create it. And then if you're not starting from scratch, you already have something of guidance. So when we were like, okay, well, what age range? We already knew Instagram was telling us at this time, this was probably what, 2021?
Around then, maybe 2020.
That 28% of our audience was 18 to 24 and 53% was 25 to 34. So we could even open it up today and see how much it's changed, but we do know that those two are the biggest parts. And then of men, we were 4% male. So we were like, okay, yeah, we're going to target the women.
Right. Yeah. That was very clear. And that was one thing that we knew pretty much immediately.
So some things that we wrote on our original one, if I feel like that would be helpful. No?
Yeah.
We said females ages 18 to 34, dog owners interested in animals, fashion, Instagram, and photos, and most likely has no children yet. And that's all we wrote on this original thing. So we've come quite a long way, because in 2024, which is when we decided we're not going to be doing clothes right now, do we need to reevaluate who our target market was? We sat down, we were like, okay, what's our target market going to be? What's our mission going to be? We had to reevaluate everything because we were losing this segment of our brand, when I feel like in reality, we didn't end up changing that much because the embroidery really kept us on that dog mom brand. We weren't going back to dogs only.
Also, well, we did realize that as a company, we were getting a little bit older. And so our audience had skewed a little bit, maybe older at that point.
Yeah. And we're having kids, and we know that some of our audience is having kids. So we were saying no kids, but is that changing? So this in 2024, we said females ages 25 to 35. So we kind of dropped the 18, but that doesn't mean the 18-year-olds can't still buy from us or enjoy our content. That's just not necessarily who we're targeting. Because at this time, we feel like we don't have any knowledge on what an 18-year-old likes anymore. You know, like
true.
When we started, we were like 23 or I don't know, were we?
Yeah, 24, 23, 24.
So we were still closer to the 18-year-olds, and like we felt like we still knew that stuff. But now I have no idea what an 18-year-old likes.
No.
And they're like a totally different generation.
Well, and then other things that we started to say on there was like, we knew that with kids, people are just, as you get older, a lot of times I think you get busier. And so it's like, we're trying to help find products for the busy dog mom.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's the busy dog mom with kids, with work, whatever it might be, because that's a struggle that we're facing and we're going to face even more once the baby's here.
So some of the interests that we added on here, we really niched down. We were like, hey, they like Taylor Swift. They like Target and fashion. They like Chip and Joanna Gaines, Netflix. They're family oriented. It says no clubbing.
No clubbing.
They're readers into Colleen Hoover and podcasts. They like shows like The Summer I Turned Pretty and Love is Blind. Like we really were like, okay, these are things, because those type of things really can help you create content around that stuff.
Absolutely.
So as you can see, you can really niche down and find some things.
And again, remember, as like you're going through this exercise, you're trying to get as specific as possible, but that doesn't mean that, you know, if your person doesn't like Colleen Hoover, that they're not going to be able to buy from you or that they can't extremely resonate with your content. It's just you're trying to really just get specific.
And then the last thing we put on here were competitors that they shop at, which can help you because you can look at those brands, what they're doing, what products they have, how they're marketing. We don't know who their target market is and like who they're trying to target. But if we think that our people also are interested in that, we're going to look to them and see what they're doing as well. Not copy, but you look at them to see what they're doing.
I feel like more than most businesses that we talk to, we pay very little attention to our competition overall.
Yeah,
I think we're out there doing our own thing, trying to make our own way.
For me, I always say that there's no one that's doing what we're doing. We've created our own thing. And so saying that we have competitors, I just think that they're so different, but I do have to be realistic that these people might buy from someone else. So
right.
That's why we've created that list, but we really are our own branch. I don't really see anyone being a true dog and me shop like we are. We've created our whole own segment, and so that makes us unique.
I would definitely echo what Danielle was saying too. It's really important to get all of this information out of your own head and put it on paper, and just the act of, you know, writing this stuff down and really sitting with it and thinking about it and just putting it on paper, that is really going to help clarify things for you. And a lot of times as we do that, like, ideas get sparked. And if you have a team or someone that you can brainstorm and talk to with, going back and forth and having that conversation while you guys are writing things down, I guarantee you there's going to be stuff that comes up that you're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea.
And what I had in my documents too, like the questions that we suggest to other businesses when they're saying like, okay, well, what do I do? So I feel like you need to come up with your own, like all of our documents are specific for the brands that we've talked to. So I don't really have like a good example, but like you guys need to come up with your own questions to then answer for yourselves, but think about your product. Like, why is someone coming to buy my product? Why does someone want to buy your thing over the competitor's thing? You need to be answering these questions, and that will help guide you to your target market as well.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think you're exactly right. There's questions that help, because it's really hard if you just say, okay, who is my target market? Go. That's much harder. And that's why with the brands that we've worked with, again, gone through this exercise, we have questions that we ask them to help spark some ideas and get them thinking.
Yeah, because it can be really hard if you don't know and if you don't have any direction.
And particularly the first time you do this exercise, it's definitely more intimidating and hard to do. I think for us, it's a lot easier now because we kind of, even though we revisit it and we're starting with a blank slate, a lot of the stuff hasn't changed. And it's just like anything. The more times you do the exercise, the better you get at it.
Yeah. And I was just reading some of our examples. Our sheet is like 2 pages long. And so know that it's okay if you have a ton of stuff and then you need to come back and niche it down. Just do a brain dump, put it all down and think of all the things. And if you're listening to us because you want to be just like us and then you're going to copy all of the target market I just said, that also probably isn't going to be great for you because there's got to be something different about you. It's going back again to that would technically mean that we're competition. And so what's going to set you apart from your competition? If we're your competition, like what are you going to do that we're not doing that people would come buy from you rather than us? Because if you're doing the same exact thing, then the customer's like, okay, well, it doesn't matter where I go.
The one thing that you have the ability that no one else has is to be yourself. And if you can be your authentic self and create your own specific target market and specific brand that is really, kind of centered around all your specific interests and things like that, no one is going to be able to compete with you at that because it is you. Just like Danielle said, if you try to copy the things that we're doing, you can't compete with us at being Dani and Nick and Tails Up Pup just because we are what we are and you can't be better at being us than we are.
Yeah.
And we can't be better at being you. That's not me saying that like, oh, you can't compete with us. It's we can't compete with you either because you are you. We can never be better at being you than you are.
And I think it's easy to like get caught up in, well, they're better at it than me, or like I would never like be comfortable on camera. But just know that it takes practice and the only way to get better is just to do it. And so don't let that hold you back and just do it because we also weren't good and we've been doing this for 5 years. So practice has not made perfect because we're not perfect.
Definitely not perfect.
Practice just makes you better and you learn over time. And if you just sit there and just say, I can't do it, then you're not going to learn anything.
Well, that reminds me of one of the people that I really look up to. Every year he posts, he's, very famous, tons of followers, extremely well-known brand. And every year he posts his beginning videos and his journey. And they are so like cringeworthy, like just really was not good on camera. Everything about it was just like, wow, a true beginner. But the reason he posts that every single year is to encourage people, hey, even me that you guys are looking, I look up to him. The people that look up to him, hey, I didn't start out knowing how to do all this stuff. I was not good on camera naturally. All of these things I've worked towards showing that you can do it too.
Maybe we should do that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was very bad early on.
Well, we didn't do a video like that, but we've done the videos of like showing over time. And that's always like my favorite video. Remember, like,
the evolution.
The evolution of Tails Up Pup. I think it's so cool to see how far we've come because you kind of forget when you're living it. And I'm sure you forget if you're watching it because you're just like, oh, that's where they are now. But you don't think about where we came from and how we got here.
Yeah. But all that to say is, you can do it. Particularly if you're just starting out, or if there's, maybe you've been running a business, you're like, I want to put myself in front of the camera more, or I wanted, get into a brand new thing like clothing or something. I mean, it could be literally anything. You just have to start, make the mistakes, and you're going to learn through practice.
I would say that like overall you can change your target market and you can add to it and shift it. But if you are completely like 360 changing your target market, you might be better off starting a whole new company because if you already have people in on that, then they're going to be so confused on what is going on if you just make a completely different shift, The
other thing too about target markets is while it's very important to revisit it, you don't want to be revisiting it like every week or something like that because I think you have to give it long enough to see what's working and what's resonating. You could probably, revisit it once a month, but I think you want to give it at least once a quarter.
Yeah, I feel like we do once a quarter.
Yeah, because it does take time to see what's working and things like that. And a small change is very different than a big pivot.
Just to go back for a second on like changing your target market, we were saying we're having kids, our target market, like people in our audience are also having kids. And so we were like, let's bring back Simply Sweet Pea. But at that time we were like, do we want to put the children's stuff on Tails Up Pup or do we not? And we really had a long debate about it because it's hard to know what the right decision is, but overall, it was going to be so hard for us to be this dog mom shop and have kids clothing on there in a totally separate way. So that's why we created a second brand because for us, switching the target market up that much was going to be too shocking to everyone, and it wasn't going to make sense. So that's why it became its own thing. And yes, you can coordinate. We have our dog bandana patterns in applique on the kids' website as well, so you can make your own matching moments, but for it to all be on Tails Up Pup just didn't make sense for our target market.
And mainly just because we felt like if we did that, we wouldn't really be speaking to anyone specific. It's like you're trying to speak to dog moms, you're trying to speak to people like human moms. Like it really like the messaging would be watered down, and when you have a watered down message, it's not really resonating with any specific person strongly.
And I think that your target market is what you fall back on every time you want to add a product or a pattern or something new.
Honestly, any decision that you make, I feel like that's kind of how we run it by, is like, does this, and this is why it's really funny, but you can come up with a name for like we call it like your avatar. You can come up with a name for like your avatar, and your avatar is your, like,
name her Cindy. Yeah, and then you're like, okay, would Cindy buy this?
Yeah, would Cindy buy this? And if Cindy wouldn't buy it, or it wouldn't resonate with Cindy, then the answer is probably don't do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good way. Obviously, like, other people besides Cindy's not your only customer, but that's a really good litmus test to put it through and say, if Cindy would think this is a good idea, then I think it's worth exploring.
And that's how we really came to the Dog Mom walking bags, because we were like, oh my gosh, Cindy would love this, because it's hitting all of these problems, problems. Yeah.
Solving
all
problems.
Of her issues of being this busy on the go dog mom. She needs this bag to make her life better. And so that's where we're like, oh yeah, for sure we need to have this.
And same thing with like the lick mats. It's like, Cindy needs a way to help tire her dogs out when she can't spend an hour every day on a walk or playing fetch. How can she, when she has company over, entertain her dog, or, when her dog, just hasn't had the activity? Yes, the lick mat makes so much sense. Cindy would love the lick mat.
Yeah. So you can use this avatar, this person, to answer any question for your business. But if you haven't niched down or figured it out, then it won't get you anywhere at all. So you got to start at square one, figuring out who your person is, and going through all of the motions to figure out your true target market, and
just start paying attention to other business owners that you talk about when you ask some questions like, oh, who's like your ideal customer, who's your target market. You're gonna hear a lot of people say everyone, and now you're gonna know, oh wow, that's actually not a good answer.
Yeah, just like us. Sometimes we're like, ooh, we could help them.
Yeah.
But hopefully we helped you in some way or another. If you have any questions, let us know. We used to do business consulting, so we could get back into that. But this is the first step, because providing any kind of value to y'all. And if you have a topic like this that you would like us to cover on the podcast, definitely let us know, because we want to bring the content that you want to hear.
And I will say, this is probably one of the biggest like bang for your buck things that you can do in your business. So get that piece of paper and just start.
And know that you can have an eraser or backspace, and you can always change it and figure it out as you go. Thank you guys so much for listening. If this was helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify.
Those things literally help so much get the podcast out to other people, and we're not always the best about asking for it. So if you like it, please give us a good review.
And if you're watching on YouTube, the thumbs up and the subscribe. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.